Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican, running for mayor of Abbotsford. The first thing we're going to do is get rid of the Abbotsford Police on its organization of its high elite criminal activity in Abbotsford. That is clear to Abbotsford residents what took place in our elections and what took place on my life and what took place with Abbotsford Task Force on Councillor Mogill, a South Asian, and on me to win this election for Henry Brown and Ross Siemens. First of all, I want to begin with a story. Uniform is not going to protect any individual that failed to do its job. I took to social media because Henry Brown and an elite establishment was owning our private police, and they failed to uphold the Criminal Code of Canada. You could see even Mike Sir when he fled from here. You could see Chief Watts has not even come out to fix these issues, and he's trying to hold on to his job believing that the company won't save him. I went political as a politician so I can be above him and be above the Abbotsford Police so I can get justice brought in here and I can get law enforcement for my residents. So today I want to give you another story, a heart-shaking one. Abbotsford residents asked me to step up and speak for them on behalf of Mackenzie Bogg, the half of Darren Braun in front of his dad, Abbotsford City Council's in his house, the negligence, Rob Funkadiverse, Marcus Dalvis Quantum Projects, Mike Sir, and the whole story of Abbotsford. I'm proud to do that. I was once a neighbor to George Ferguson, one of the greatest men. I had great teachers in my life. I told you Bill Vanderzam. I told you Bruno Wall, Alf Wall, Peter Wall. The list went on. Tony McGill of Intertech and everybody. There should be 11 playing ground for developers and 11 playing ground for you, but your residents come first as taxpayers. The last couple of days I've been showing you what Archway Community Services has been doing and what was taking place and how Henry needed to load Ross Siemens. Abbotsford residents have been truthful to me and have came forward with information that is unbelievable. Even the workers here in Abbotsford of the God-awful act that took place and what Ross is doing. Ross is emptying the city bank account, trying to bankrupt the city, knowing when I come in there won't be any funds. Going behind taxpayers' back, buying the $12.4 million and approving everything, trying to rush with city councils, with your Abbotsford First projects to get his friends loaded, and you could see Abbotsford News blocking everything. I showed you that David Eby needs a break and it needs to be called out. What is happening over in Abbotsford with the non-profit organization Archway Community Service, the money it raised in the name of the flood victims and sent its CEOs great, real big lavish paychecks. Archway, Rob Sanniego's wife on community cash, how they took over the board and voted it into everything else. This is what Henry was doing in the city. I had a great man that showed me all this, and I knew it wasn't a conspiracy. It was Henry's own son. He was a proving officer here. Today I want to bring you another story that Abbotsford workers in the city told me. This here lady is Nicole Reid. Let me explain who Nicole Reid is and what she does. She's a city council for Chilliwack, BC. City council for Chilliwack, BC. She sits on all these boards in Abbotsford as economic development officer, I believe, here in Abbotsford. And so what she's doing as a city council of Chilliwack, what she's doing is driving and taking Abbotsford's customers into Chilliwack. I believe she lured Molson in there. I believe she lured all these other companies on Abbotsford taxpayers. She's tied to Archway Community Services, and she sits on Community for Futures, what gives grants. Now, I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, you can look her up. She's a Chilliwack City Council, and she's operating on these groups in Abbotsford. Abbotsford City staff told me. And they said Vicky Hopes and Ken been blocking it from being out there, so she's forced to give up her position in Chilliwack, forced to leave as a council. But what the heck is she doing in Abbotsford on these boards? And why is she here? Well, let me tell you what she's doing. She's coming in here and she's taking all the businesses and luring them into Chilliwack. And that is what Nicole Reid is doing. And she's a sitting, active, not a past, active city council. Abbotsford City advised me of this and warned me and said, hey, Mr. Pelican, you want to see something Vicky Hope's covered up. We're all behind you. We're all with you. This is what Vicky Hopes has been blocking. Now to imagine that, a conflict of interest. So first we had Big Papa Bear. I told you Henry was the head of the mob. He set the whole thing up. These ordinary community futures and these things are worth millions and millions of dollars. Henry went in. He pushed Bruce Banman out of the way. He pushed Mo Gill out of the way. He scandaled him with the newspaper. That was a foregone thing. He loaded these boards. He took over, you could see way back when he said Mark Workentine, the city council, was an old on the Abbotsford Police. He pointed his brother Irwin on them boards. He got his friends on these boards, and he started to own Abbotsford. Then he went in and set up the official community plan with his son Darren Brown, was an economic development officer here, and he was loading everything in front of his dad. Henry knew that I knew this, so Henry used the only way out. He had to start emptying his safe up on downs when Keelan Olenoff, an Abbotsford police officer, said, you dropped them videos in that lawsuit them homeowners got, Mr. Pelican, or I will bury you. I went to the RCMP because it was threats now. Henry Brown brought himself in the political ring with Ed Fast and Mike DeYoung and was gouging Abbotsford City on its taxes and everything. Here was a man that was supposed to be the smartest man since Abraham Lincoln. And he came into Abbotsford to steal from it. Every job that he sat on, he had to step off because he was conflict of interest because his partners were in and his partners owned. Rob Funka Diverse, how they changed the zoning and everything, and they were blocking everyone else. I want to make it clear to Abbotsford residents who the major culprit of this is. That shit, bloody garbage Abbotsford police were involved with this. When Mike Sears knew he couldn't cover Henry's hit and run because I was on the social media, he fled, the little bugger. He fled to Surrey and he's shaking. They stole $71 million, Darren Brown sold me in the name of police. It's under police. We'll feel sorry. Look at us. Chief Watts is going after the gangs. Don't you feel Chief Watts and his detectives? Abbotsford residents were being threatened by an elite mob. A mob that was in organized crime, that was taking over charities, that was loading themselves to the board. So I want to make it clear. How did this happen? Abbotsford newspaper got owned to block all the stories, even on Nicole Reid, knowing that she's not allowed as a city council of Chilliwack to be in Abbotsford on any boards or being anything. And what she's doing is all these proposals, like I'll give you an example. When Molson was here, Molson got turned down and she probably went to Henry and said, listen, Henry, don't worry, we'll lobby Molson because that's my job to Chilliwack. We'll lobby John Deere, that's to Chilliwack. But she has no business sitting on any of these boards as a sitting council of Chilliwack. Her whole goal is to help Chilliwack taxpayers and Chilliwack only, not for Abbotsford. And we got Mark Workentine, city lawyer, as a lawyer, owns a law practice that knows the conflict of interest and knows what she's doing to Abbotsford taxpayers, and he's got his mouth shut. We got Les Barkman. We got Kelly Shahal. Don't forget Kelly Shahal's a probation officer. We got all these smart people that are sitting there. Well, this lady, Nicole Reid, is doing this to Abbotsford residents. As mayor of Abbotsford, I'm going to investigate her, all the groups she's lobbied, the things that she stole off of Abbotsford that would bring economic drivers, and get her investigated and charged because she is not supposed to be doing that. Now, I would advise Ken Pop-Up of the Chilliwack mayor, because me and him and his staff we have a great relationship going. I advise him that you need to now call for a by-election and remove Nicole Reid. She has to be gone. But who covered this? City staff told me, Ross Siemens. And he said, Nat Chief Watts has been ducking everything here with his investigators, and they're going to have a big show this week, Abbotsford Police. So let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what these goons were doing to Abbotsford. When Henry knew George Ferguson died, he knew he could jack Bruce Banman in a scandal with the chicken manure. He knew he could threaten Mo Gill. He was going to own the city. And the only one that was left there was this big old Les Barkman, the big baby, they call him. When Eric Nival came, Henry started shit-kicking Eric Nival and all these. When I came in with Abbotsford residents on the neglect that Henry lobbied a job and was scamming, I knew, working with great developers, where to go. Mike DeYoung and Ed Fast. Mike told me to cut a deal with Henry. That means Mike was already up Henry's backside. Henry went in that mayorship only for one purpose, to fill his boots and his friends' boots. When it didn't go Henry's way, Henry started threatening. And when it didn't go Henry's way, he used the newspaper to blackjack you and have you criticized. When it still didn't go Henry's way, Henry went down to the Abbotsford police and he used them to threat like he did Olenoff. He used them to call Olenoff, and Olenoff said, Mr. Pelican, if you don't drop these things in these videos, we're going to bury you. When I was running these podcasts on the insider trading, and just like I'm doing on Nicole Reid tonight, Archway Community Services, Abbotsford Police upped their attack on a political politician, me. The cop came out, smashed my phone, he smashed my camera, then he threatened to put the boots to me and jail me. The Chief Watts went in there on his hands and he hid. And he's hid and he's believing, oh, the company, gangs in Abbotsford. Chief Watts has got a local things in gangs. I'm adamant. We have to go all the way, ladies and gentlemen. We have to go all the way, and Nicole Reid is a prime example. And what is she doing in Abbotsford? She is taking Abbotsford's customers to Chilliwack. She sits on the boards, Community Futures, go look her up, what she does. And she's not allowed to be operating in Abbotsford. She has the best interest of Chilliwack in their taxpayers, and that's where she's supposed to be. And these losers, don't forget Mark Workendien's a smart lawyer. He's supposed to be real smart. Henry pointed them to the police board and everything. Sit there with their mouths shut, because they weren't with their mouths shut. Henry knows Chilliwack's the next big city to grow, so he's probably loading all his people in there, and he's going to say, a smart businessman, he'd blackjack her and say, listen, Nicole, if you don't give me a decision on the city council when it goes to the voting and you're not with me, I'm going to get Vicky Hopes to scandal you and get you kicked out and fired and get you investigated, because you're not allowed to be operating in Abbotsford, BC as a sitting council over there. This is what happened. This is what Pam was doing and everybody. If we're going to have this, then David Eby and Abbotsford or BC needs to come to a conclusion, and we need to wipe out all the mayors, and there should be only one mayor and one set of councils if you're operating in other municipalities. I'm here for Abbotsford. And the first thing I'm going to tell Nicole Reid right now is desist and desist immediately out of Abbotsford. Excuse yourself from all the boards and everything that is. And Ross Siemens is bringing more heat on you, because today city staff informed me of this dirty garbage. They said, we watched you on Archway. We support you, what Archway's been doing. We support you because city council was behind there. We support you on everything, Mr. Pelican. You're supporting your community. You're supporting what's right in your community. You're supporting your voice in your community. You're supporting your taxes to go down. You're supporting economic developers to stay here. And you're going after the organization of an elite mob that was held up by the Abbotsford APD and its investigators. I shouldn't have to be standing here and telling you that. That new dumb clown they hired down there, Chief Watts, should be doing an interview, but he figured today I'll go online and I'll do some shit with Ross Siemens. I'll blow up my police building. Look at my old police building. Gangs. I want to tell you about gangs and my new cars. You stole $71 million. Archway community named and raised in the name of the flood victims, which is an immoral, a degrading act. You might as well go with Chief Watts and dig up the dead people and start taking their jewelry and their fillings out of their teeth to sell it. It's fraud. It's embezzlement. But I want to make it clear, ladies and gentlemen, how this happened. Henry Brown was a mastermind and a rig leader. With his people that he could be in there, I showed you Rob Santiago. I showed you Dave Sadu. I showed you Marcus Dalvis, how he ran him. I showed you Rob Funk, how Henry was partners with Rob Funk. I showed you Quantum Projects. I showed you all that. And I showed you Darren Brown in front of his dad. I showed you the conflict of interest of Darren Brown in front of his dad. I showed you it all. Henry Brown went in there and he took ownership of Abbotsford. Now let me explain where it went wrong. Abbotsford residents stood up with me because of a contractor damage on our homes, which is rightfully the city supposed to defend it and go after it. Henry wanted me to cut a deal, and so did Mike Sir and Mike Dion with him, to shut my mouth, and we'll bury all the other homeowners, and we're going to help you. I said, you're going to go after that developer and that contractor, Henry, and you're going to fix it all. Darren Brown said, Mr. Pelican, that ain't going to happen. My dad's tied in there and he's moving Riverside to his job to get a lift. Right there and then it went back. When Henry knew I wasn't going to be quiet about it, here's what Henry did. He asked the Abbotsford Gertie Purdy to remove Abbotsford homeowners that were all here about his police, Abbotsford policemen, working for Henry on the side, in behind the police chief's back, threatening residents. And the chief went to Mike, sir, fled from here, rather than investigate his officers and say, what's going on? Abbotsford residents left. Henry came out of that city, off that floor, came in his Lexus car, stood on the gas, proceeded to end my life. He knew the information was too much out on social media. He dumped his Lexus car. He asked Mike Sir to cover it. Abbotsford police didn't go after him. They didn't talk to the witnesses. They didn't pull cameras. They didn't do nothing. Why? They were scrapping it all. Why would you scrap it? They were working together. They stand to lose their jobs. They stand to be investigated. They stand to do everything. And Henry stands to pull down a lot of rich, important people of Abbotsford and bring them under. Ron Funka Diverse is #1. Marcus Dalvis Quantum Projects. Andy Sadu and Dave Sadu, what they were doing. Dave Lowens, you could see him, what he does for them. And here's loudmouth Dave Lowens tweeting everything to baby Ross Siemens. Great Toes said it the best when he said, Mr. Pelican, we need Ross to win this mayorship. We don't need you in. We'll pay you for all your signs and election signs and everything you're out, and we'll help you in 4 years if you listen to us. I knew right now and then when I took the stage, it was over for Ross Siemens. Great Toes blocked that to load Ross Siemens. Abbotsford taxpayers, taxes have been going up and 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 up. And we're supposed to have a gas station boy that can't manage nothing because he was loaded. He runs and hides. Nancy Friesen don't know what to do. Dave Lowens don't know what to do because I'm cranking at the world's toppest level on social media of the organized crime. Abbotsford police are just, can we buy a new vehicle this week? Can we get a new vehicle? Oh, maybe next week Abbotsford police will have their doors open. We'll be selling drugs right out of the back of the APD. We need leadership. We need the RCMP. That's why I recognize we need the RCMP, and we need them fast. And we need to go after people like Nicole Reid of what she's doing in Abbotsford, how she sits on all these foundations, how she's tied to Archway, and why the Abbotsford newspaper was doing what it was doing and blocking all these stories and knew right now, if Vicky Hopes would have wrote what Nicole Reid was doing, Nicole Reid would have pulled out of Abbotsford immediately. Vicky Hopes was pressurized by Henry when Henry told Tyler Olson, you write one thing that I'm doing or about me, I'll put you on my belly. So I want to make it clear tonight to all Abbotsford police officers that know Mr. Pelican, I ain't going nowhere, and neither are my residents or my voters, and neither are the people that are helping me. Today, Abbotsford City worked very hard to help me on Nicole Reid. I'm going to dismantle you one by one. I don't care what you cry, how you twist, how you beg, how you say you're here for the gangs, how you failed to investigate. You failed to pull cameras. You left a man for dead. You allowed Mike Sear to flee. You allowed Henry to scam. You allowed his son in front of him. It's insider trading. It's racketeering. It's collaborating. And it's an organization of crime. And it's a high elite ring of mob. And it needs the best man that can serve Abbotsford and get it back on track. That's the RCMP. So to Chief Watts, I'd be flying out to Chilliwack and I'd be asking Ken Papa, Abbotsford City staff today, phone me after they watched me about Archway turning their stomach inside out of Rob Santiago and his wife and all this little ring. So I want to make it clear who set this ring up. Henry Brown is the mastermind. He needed them councils behind him which were collaborating with him and no longer dead. Abbotsford City Council sat there and giggled with Henry. As long as we outvoted you, Vicky Hopes wrote a 4-1 decision. He set up the Cooper's Farm when he snuck in and changed the schedule and blamed Peter Sparanese, an Abbotsford City lawyer. When Henry knew he couldn't own me and I wasn't for sale, he had to do what every mob boss does when he realizes the gate's closing. Started threatening. I guess eventually the Abbotsford police that were under his thumb that he couldn't get no more because they were being watched by social media. They knew I had the help of the RCMP, having witnesses and cameras. Henry had to go it alone. He got in his car and he stood on the gas to end my life. And it didn't make the newspaper and I went to the hospital. The RCMP of Abbotsford, along with all witnesses, made sure that the Abbotsford APD was in up to their necks. So I want to tell Chief Watts, Abbotsford's new mayor is going to be Mr. Pelican. I'm going to drag you out of that chair and kick your ass right around the world for what you're doing. and what your company's done to this town. Picked up prostitutes, raced our Dodge Chargers, threatened Abbotsford seniors, smashed phones, smashed cameras, and the list just went on. And then you embezzled all this money, $71 million, under sympathy. You went out and bought new vehicles, and you just won't stop with your garbage. This is how a mayor should lead, and a mayor should be for all its community. So I tell you, Chief Watts, you better have investigations on Archway, and you better have it open and all. When Darren Brown showed me that the city on the 6th floor, Mr. Pelican, and go for a forensic audit, it'll show you the fast tracking, it'll show you everything. Now you know, Chief Watts, Abbotsford Police, and Nicole Reeve of Chilliwack. Why Paul Harvey used to say, now you know the rest of the story. I'm here for my residents. Today I want to thank Abbotsford workers and city staff. Please come forward with more of this information. This is what we need to fight our town. And now I'll push the pressure on Ken Pop-Up of Chilliwack to call a by-election and get Nicole Reeve kicked out and investigated. I'm live, Abbotsford, British Columbia.